Take it away, Andrew, for a second time.
You know what? This is going to be a very lackluster one because
No,
I gave all my
enjoy.
energy to the first one. So
I'll
welcome
compensate.
to We Can Rant with two people. So we're reviewing.
Welcome to Two Jews Reviews
That's another show.
with your host,
Andrew and
Kosher Kevin.
there it is.
Kosher Kevin.
I like it. I like
Okay.
it.
Welcome to We Can Rant, where we can rant. I am your host, Kevin, with my buddy, co-host,
Andrew.
and we're here to talk about a very divided, a very controversial, maybe upsetting movie to most of the DC Batman, Superman fans out there. I'm, of course, speaking of
Civil War.
Civil War.
Okay. Batman v Superman: Dawn of Justice.
Yes.
So here we got the first shared universe opening movie for DC. So again, like I said before, and it wasn't recorded, this is a direct follow-up of Man of Steel.
You don't have to say stuff like that to hurt me. I'm very
Yes, I
sensitive.
Maybe it wasn't your fault. So, the world knows that aliens exist, that Superman's real, and they kind of don't know what to make of him. Is he a threat? Is he here to save us? And, of course, after what happened in Metropolis at the end of Man of Steel, people are scared of what he can do. And then this movie takes place 2 years later, so he's been doing a lot of things, both kind of good and slightly destructive, since then. And so we're now introduced to Ben Affleck's Batman, the newest Batman.
Yep.
Controversial, but we'll get to that.
We certainly will. We have a lot to talk about their portrayals, especially Gal Gadot's
Wonder Woman. Yeah. So Batman essentially is older, grizzled. This is not supposed to be
like a bear.
Exactly.
I just
my description does it.
Yeah, he's very bear-like in this movie.
He does
there's a
hibernate at one
scene,
point.
this is a little bit of a spoiler, but he does go to a ravine or a river or something, and he starts batting at some fish, some salmon, some salmon. So yeah, there's a lot of bear activities for.
Well, you just ruined like one of the best scenes in the
Yeah,
movie.
I'm sorry. Those are the best action scenes. I shouldn't have said that.
So Batman takes it upon himself to bring this potential threat down.
Yes.
Right. So that's kind of like where we're starting.
He does have. We also, unfortunately, get to experience Jesse Eisenberg's interpretation of a very iconic Superman, and even Batman villain, because he does interact with him,
Right.
and it is super jarring
Yeah,
and bad, and there's not a lot of good things to say about it, because we won't say any good things about it. When you look into the trailers, you get an indication of just a small indication of his quote-unquote quirkiness that he uses to make this Lex Luther, Jesse Eisenberg, this Lex Luthor different from all the other Lex Luthors, and in that way he actually makes him the worst Lex Luthor, with
Right.
his attempt to make him so unique and different.
Right. That there's nothing left of the original at all. So
on top of that, we get the introduction of Doomsday, as well as another antagonist to the entire story, and another main plot point would be Superman and Batman coming together and tackling this another godlike foe together, and trying to figure out, with Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman, trying to figure out how to defeat him.
right, and then we get the seeds of Justice League essentially.
Or the beginnings of the Justice League, little snippets, but we'll get into that a little bit in the spoilers. We already know, I think, a lot of our fans, which are zero of our fans, because we don't have any. No.
Why do you have to say that every time? Like, you drain my motivation.
We'll get them. Could be this review. Okay?
Oh, it could be this is gonna be the tipping point. Okay.
There's talk of Jason Mimosa. I think that's his name.
Yeah, that's
Jason
very
Mimosa, delicious drink. Coming in and making an appearance, and then also the Flash is slated to make an appearance, and Cyborg as well. And we'll talk about that later, but they do make an appearance, and I think it's serviceable in this movie. I don't think it's, but Andrew has a different, yeah, as you can tell.
I don't agree at all.
Yeah, we'll talk about that later, but they also make an appearance. To me, it seems like it's serviceable, especially with the cast that's presented in the movie. I thought it would have been more so, not too like adding too much into the movie if they had bigger roles. This is my thing.
Oh, yeah.
But let's talk about what we have so far in the movie with Ben Affleck's Batman to start. What's your opinion?
I thought he was really good. It's kind of funny because that was probably the biggest, amongst other things, but one of the biggest worries of people. Like, Ben Affleck is Batman. Did you see Daredevil and all this stuff?
Right.
And I thought he did really well. He was like one of the best parts of the movie. I thought his interpretation of Batman is probably one of my favorite live action ones going forward. Even though people are going to be angry that he does do some un-Batman-like things. So I think people have to take into consideration going into this that he is the older, cynical Batman from the DC animated movie that you showed me, Dark Knight.
Dark Knight Returns.
The Dark Knight Returns, sorry. So people should go into that thinking he's not the Christian Bale one that just started putting on the suit, and he's like, there's one rule I won't break. This is the one that's lived that life already, and he clearly hasn't really made a dent in Gotham City. Mm-hmm. So, or the crime rate, I should say. So, I thought he was really good. What'd you think of his character?
Yeah, I was going to touch on the fact that if people are coming into this movie expecting Batman to have his one rule that he doesn't break and finding little loopholes and little workarounds to avoid that, you're not getting that. You're getting a completely different Batman. Not a Batman that I dislike per se, but he's not a Batman that you're going to be used to in the comic books, in the animated movies, in the animated show, even in the old school Adam West ones where it's like super corny. Of course, you're not going to get any of that. Nobody wants that.
Right.
So we have this Batman interpretation that I enjoy, that's super brutal, and he has so much, it almost seems like anger, more so than any other Batman that I've ever seen.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He also did a great job, in my opinion, as Bruce Wayne, because he nails it as Bruce Wayne. He nails it as Batman. The costume is on point. He looks like the comic book. He's a little grayish on the suit, which I like.
And I also like that he had an alternative. Like, he had that, like, mecha militarized suit. Because in the comics, he has, like, so many variations of his suit.
Right.
But in the movies, they always just show the...
Especially in the Christian Bale ones. Because when you see the Christian Bale Batman, he did have a crappy suit. Not a crappy suit, but a suit in the beginning, which he modified and made better in the other movies. Mm-hmm. But there were like slight variations.
Exactly.
This one, they're very distinct.
And you get two alternate. When you get the one in the nightmare sequence, the desert like gear, and then you get the one where he's fighting Superman, where he has to do like his heavy hitting. So I don't know. I really like that. I like the Batmobile. I like this version of Alfred. Like everything with Batman, I was actually very pleased. And I also like that they didn't take too much time in his origins. It was a quick little montage at the beginning.
Yes.
Now you know he's an orphan. Move on.
Right. As if you didn't know he was an orphan.
Right.
From now on, like, I would say if they were to do another interpretation of Batman somehow,
leave that out.
Leave that, dude. We don't need to see his parents die so many times. It's the same thing with Spider-Man, but we don't really need to get into that right now. That's a whole different thing. I have a whole gripe about it.
What did you think of? There wasn't much, but what did you think of Gal Gadot's Wonder Woman?
I enjoyed it thoroughly. There wasn't much because you wanted the focal point to be Batman v Superman, and to the movie's credit, it revolves around that most of the time. and Gal Gadot does make her appearance, and she has her little side thing that she's trying to do
Right.
that connects with what Bruce Wayne Batman is trying to do. And you have that action sequence, which shows in the trailer, where she participates in, and that's really all I needed from her.
Right.
And
I
a
agree.
setup for the Justice League movie obviously is going to happen, and she does that serviceably as well. She did a really good job. I enjoyed her portrayal. There's a lot of gripes about her being not 9 feet tall, Amazonian, and fully ripped, but her acting chops really
she was pretty good.
helped with that that little small nitpick
Right.
that people
and balanced
had.
Yeah.
Balance it out. You didn't feel like she was weak or anything during the entire movie.
And she
I would
held
say
her
she's
own against Batman versus and Superman. She
Yeah.
didn't fight them, but like she didn't seem like the third wheel
No.
to them. Like she felt like an equal leader. So I thought that was pretty interesting. I don't know much about her, but
she was on par with what Superman was doing as far as power wise.
Right.
It seemed like she was just as powerful as Superman. So, and in the comic books, she doesn't get her. She gets her powers from magic. She's magic based.
Right.
So the fact that she's huge doesn't play that big of a role. She didn't get them from working out. Now, unlike Batman.
Oh, we get our nice montage.
Yes.
I think it's Kevin's favorite scene.
It's my most hilarious. It's the most hilarious scene out of the entire. No, there are every scene that Jesse Eisenberg's was in was the most hilarious scene, and not for the reasons.
Good reasons.
It's not like he's up there telling jokes.
Right.
It's because he's up there being a conniving, very psychotic, openly psychotic person.
Right.
Whereas the character of Lex Luthor in the comic books is a master manipulator who's convinced the world that he's out to help them, drawing a contrast to Superman, who is an alien being who they don't trust, so they put their trust in Lex Luthor. Where this person, he is not at all subtle with his performance of being an like kind of, I guess you would say like a supervillain, like a typical supervillain.
Right.
There's no subtlety at all to it.
No.
And that's what I didn't like.
Really
He actually in the movie he makes a speech, and in the speech itself he's talking to a crowd of people, and in that speech where he's talking to a crowd of people, nobody in that crowd thinks he's a good person.
Right. Exactly. He's
But just the way he talks,
villainous.
Yeah.
There's no subtlety with this character. We'll get to we'll go more in depth with Lex a little bit later.
Yeah, we can.
But I agree with you that it wasn't. Now what about supposedly the main character, Henry Cavill? Because you said you felt he did have equal time to Ben Affleck's Batman. I felt that he kind of Ben Affleck's Batman kind of overshadowed him at times. I was like, this is a Superman movie, right? Because this is not supposed to be Justice League Part 1. This is really supposed to be Man of Steel 2 in a way, but it didn't feel that way. So, I mean, I thought Henry Cavill did well. He gets a lot of crap for being too brooding, and people are like, Superman's supposed to be a lot more, like, hopeful and smiling, and what did you think of his version of Superman in this movie?
I think if he smiled at any given point in the movie, it would have been very weird. Considering the plot that was happening and the scenes that were going around. Right. If he smiled at all, then it wouldn't have made any sense. Except for the scenes at the beginning where he did kind of like show he has a relationship with Lois Lane, played by Amy Adams.
Right.
And he was his own person at that point.
He showed a little humanity.
Yeah, he was his own person at that point, and he played his role as Clark Kent. Right. And he's living his life as Clark Kent, and then at the same time being Superman. I think that those two worlds that he has were super different, and you could tell, there's that divide between those, his alter egos.
Right. Yeah, they did that pretty well.
He did a good job. He did a good job. Look, he did a good job in the first movie.
I thought so too. Yeah.
He wasn't shit. He's a good actor.
Yeah.
It's just that the plot makes him brooding and
exactly. It's just
depressing.
And that kind of brings me to the story itself. So this story kind of has a more like realistic reflection, kind of like if people like that had that power and they were real, would everyone be okay with it? No, people would be scared of him, and that's pretty much the overall kind of theme about superpowered people and vigilantes and all this kind of stuff. So I thought honestly they did that well.
Okay.
To balance that.
It makes it sound like we love this movie.
No,
we don't. But so let's go ahead and talk about
no.
the bad things.
Sure.
Oh, there's one more good thing I just want to throw out there. The action sequences. Zack Snyder does know how to direct action sequences.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Every action sequence in this movie was fun to watch. Very brutal. If you've played any kind of Arkham Batman game, then it feels like a video game the entire time, and in a good way. And people might think it as a bad way or take it as a bad way, but I'm looking at it as a good thing because Batman is a force to be reckoned with. So is Superman. There's also in the trailers you could see that warehouse scene that happens. That little snippet in the trailer, that scene goes on for a good 7-10 minutes. So it's unbelievably satisfying.
Yeah, it is. I agree. So what is it that you're not liking here?
Well,
with Lex Luther, I know
there's a huge thing. This movie draws a lot from different source materials from the Batman and Superman universe. We have, of course, very obviously, The Dark Knight Returns, which Andrew talked about. Also, the Injustice games. It draws a little bit from that as well, because you see that nightmare scene. It does seem very similar to the storyline in the Injustice games, which Superman loses Lois Lane and basically loses his mind at the same time.
Doesn't that kind of prove Batman's point? I don't want to delve too much into it, but I feel like when they showed that Superman will snap and pretty much conquer and become a tyrant just over the death of Lois, like Batman was kind of right to try to put him down, and we're gonna get into that a little bit more because that's one of the big gripes I've been reading is that Batman was way too violent, way too paranoid against Superman, and it made him look more like a bully and like a psychopath. But considering that alternate, I don't know if it was just a nightmare or maybe it's a possible alternate timeline or something, but it does seem like he is dangerous, that he's so easy to snap over the death of one person. But anyway, sorry, I kind of like monopolized what you were saying. Go ahead.
No, that's cool. No, no, I agree with you, and that happens in the Injustice games as like an alternate version of what happens or what would happen. So I think they're going to dive into that in the later Justice League movie because we get a glimpse of what could happen. Yeah. So reaffirming the fact that Batman is afraid of Superman for, some would argue, a very good reason.
Yeah.
But the main reason why they fight is the weakest point.
Yeah.
It's one of the weakest point, along with Jesse Eisenberg's portrayal of a wackadoo, weirdo character, super villain.
Yeah, he was not Lex Luthor in this movie.
We were confused about what he was trying to do, because at one point he would have very odd breakdowns when he was talking to regular people, and so that's what I didn't get. Like, even in the trailers, I noticed that he was more eccentric than he needed to be, especially in public. Right. That was the biggest thing. Nobody believes this person, because in the comic books, like I said, he convinces people that he's not evil. Right. To the point where he becomes president at one point.
Right.
Nobody's gonna make this fucking crazy lunatic a president. Oh wait, Donald Trump. Never mind.
I know you just shot yourself in the foot on that. You never know, but I do agree with you. He was just too overtly villainous. He was. I mean, it was there was no subtlety. Not even. Even like you said, everyone at the party was like, "This guy's clearly unhinged."
Right. There's no way that they felt uncomfortable when he spoke, to the fact where it looked like people wanted to leave.
Right.
As well, there's the Jesse Eisenberg, Lex Luthor, which we both hate, which is universally hated from what I hear. There's also the other weak point, which is we have the motivation for Batman to fight Superman.
Right.
Tell me what your thoughts are on that one.
Wait, the motivation for Batman?
Batman to fight Superman.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I agree. Like I said, it's understandable.
But don't you think, no, the main motivation, why Superman and Batman are fighting. I mean, paranoia from the beginning is understandable.
Oh,
I agree with you wholeheartedly.
You mean when it comes down to it?
Yeah,
it was stupid.
Why they had that battle was
it was stupid.
And this is what people, from what I've read, the audience, and afterwards when we spoke with our friends, they just didn't understand why they couldn't just talk it out. They had to just had a bro fight for no reason.
Right.
Yeah. So
and Superman actually did try to talk to him.
At one point, but he still could have. When he regained control of the battle at one point, he could have just screamed in his face the reason why he's there and why they should not be fighting. There's several instances where none of that battle should have taken place at all. Where they could have avoided that battle altogether and focused on the main villain, which is weirdo Jesse Eisenberg and his concoction that he's brewing up, the orc monster.
Yeah, the orc.
And he gave the orc thing is the design of the Doomsday is still horrible. No one's gonna like it. No one's gonna. Even after the movie, you're not gonna like it. Did I hate it? I mean, I didn't hate the fight scene involving Doomsday. I have to admit, it was pretty fun to watch.
It was pretty good, yeah.
But I still didn't like the design of the monster. It doesn't help that the monster is birthed out of almost like the matrix of the machine in a very orc-like fashion as well.
No, I agree with you. And the reason I don't like it is
Lord of the Rings orcs.
Yeah, the Lord of the Rings orcs. Yeah, exactly. But I agree with you mostly. But there's one other thing I don't like. The biggest thing about Doomsday is he's too important to be like a henchman side villain creature. Like it reminded me of Bane in Batman and Robin, where he was just like a henchman to Poison Ivy. It's like, no, he's too important to just be like some side villain. And Doomsday was treated as, that's like one of the biggest events in the Superman lore is Doomsday fighting Superman and whatever happens after there, we'll say. But he was just treated as like you said, like a concoction of Lex Luthor, like a really quick thing to fight them. And it didn't make sense that Lex Luthor unleashed this beast that couldn't be beaten, which would eventually kill him. So the whole motivation was just really stupid. Everything. So we got a cool fight. I did like the fight with Batman and Superman, but I didn't like, like you said, the reasoning behind it. Yeah.
The motivation was very weak.
It was.
Yeah. But every fight scene was
good.
So well done.
Yeah, it was.
They should just let Zack Snyder do their fight scenes and then send him home. That's it. Like, hey man, you're done. You can't do plots. You really there's this movie suffered from too many things going on at once. Too many source materials adapted into this movie going on at once, and you couldn't really understand really where anything was being, where the actual plot was going at any given point. You know what I mean? Like there's too many things that he drew on that he tried to fit into this movie. It felt kind of suffocating. You know what I mean? At given points.
Oh yeah, it did. That's why I said this movie feels bloated. That's, if I have to describe it in one word, that's it.
Bloated.
Bloated.
Nobody likes that feeling. So we're gonna get into our ratings right now.
Yeah.
And then we're going to jump into spoilers where we're going to talk more in depth about the movie. If you guys want to hear about it, please stick around. But I'm going to give you my rating right now. It's I'm going to give it a 6 out of 10, man. A 6 batarangs out of 10.
6 batarangs. Oof. Man, that's not a good review, but that's a pretty low score. I honestly thought you were going to say a little bit higher than that. I'll say 7.5 strands of Lex Luthor's hair out of 10.
Very good. Very good.
So I liked a little bit better than you, I guess.
Yeah, but I still would say that they're going to learn from this movie.
Right.
And in the next movie, they're really going to take the feedback that they have and make a better movie. Hopefully, Zack Snyder is just there for the fight scenes and nothing else. And then somebody else, Ben Affleck, will take the reins story-wise and directorial wise, and then we'll have a better movie. So I would say go watch it in the theaters.
Yeah.
Pay money for it.
Yeah.
If you don't feel like you need to, then don't. Just wait until it gets on Blu-ray or rented when it comes on digital download.
Or just wait for Civil War.
Yeah, please do. All right, guys. So we're signing off. Thank you for tuning in again to another episode of We Can Rant, where we can rant. I've been Kevin.
And this is Andrew.
All right, stick around for spoilers.